Would you believe the one thing that really changed the amount of work that I got and the kind of rate at which more calls came in was by stopping trying to get gigs. Let me explain the concept. So this is actually something I picked up from Bob Burg, who's an author. He's written the book Endless Referrals, but there's also the Last Prospecting Guide You'll Ever Need, and one book I recommend to all people who are considering any kind of creative career is The Go Giver, or any career really. That book is amazing at setting a foundation of how to network. And this is stuff that's worked for me. I am a bass player. I've worked in many different fields in my kind of 7-8 years out of uni, including TV, recording world for CBBS, West End, traveling, theatre shows, high-end corporate events, weddings, destination weddings. So I've traveled most of Europe, a good amount of it anyway, and spent some time in the States, and then also worked with some UK artists like Emily Sandé and recently with Perry Edwards. So all of this stuff I can kind of put down partly to this principle here. So what is this principle? And what on earth do I mean by stopping trying to get gigs? What Bob talks about is, rather than when you go in a network and you go in and you're talking to someone new, your primary goal is not to get work from that person. You stop trying to get gigs. One of the things we often do, or I certainly did coming up, is to go in thinking, I need to tell this person what I do. I need to go in now and kind of sell myself essentially. Tell them, you know, I'm Caleb, I play bass, would love to work with you and all of that. And as many of you would have experienced, I experienced myself, that method, it does not work. Rarely does it work. You know, there's got to be a better way. And Bob Burg talks about this principle of that rather than go for the direct sell with an individual, you go for a much wider approach. You want to build an army of walking ambassadors, okay? And this was the key. This was the gear changer for me that shifted things up. So rather than focus on this person is who I'm trying to get gigs from, I now think this is someone who can refer me to other people. This is someone who can hear about other opportunities within their network, and if they then we build that relationship, they're gonna then, hopefully, if you do things right, want to refer me to them. And you can get so much more work that way than trying to just get the gig from that one individual person. So the big question then becomes, how do you even do that? And what difference does it make? The whole goal is to build the curiosity with the other person and show genuine interest in that other person. Our goal is to help them first with what they want. Find out about them, find out about what they're into, maybe what they do for work, maybe what they're passionate about. I don't know if they got family. What you can then do with this information is, let's say someone you talk to is particularly into one brand of classic cars. Let's just take MG because it's a classic British brand. You happen to see an MG show coming up in an area that's near them, and you happen to send link of interest to that their way. What this is doing is showing that you actually listened to what they said. That's a kind of more advanced way in, but what Bob talks about in the book is about asking the question that essentially, how can I know if someone I'm talking to is a good prospect for you or someone you should meet? So let's just pick a random example. Let's say they're an estate agent and you ask them, how can I know if someone's a good prospect for you? And they might say, look, if someone's looking to move, or they got a tenancy coming up to an end, or they're looking to move areas, or they speak about a job change that takes them out to a different area, that can be someone, that's how you would know. And what you want to do is you actually want to build a bank of this sort of information so that you've got a track record of this, and that over time you're now doing this sort of stuff for people. You've got your database of, you know, what people are into, what they do for work, and what is valuable for them. How can you find people that they want to know and they would be useful for them to meet? If you start doing that on a regular basis and working out what is important for them and helping them achieve that, they're much more likely to want to return the favor. Whilst I haven't always done this so strategically. It's something that I have done, and it's paid off, even with things that are years down the line. Something comes up, and then, you know, because there's still that goodwill in the relationship, actually, that gets referred my way. It's like the recent Perry Edwards acoustic video we did, that came through to me from someone who I'd kind of kept in contact with for the last like 6 years or so. And all things being true, really and truly, I don't think I did anything in particular for this person to refer me, but we've just always kept in touch. And, I asked how he is, how his family is. I think it ultimately boils down to actually caring about the other people more than you care about what they can do for you. Because Bob talks about this concept that everyone's got this sphere of influence of roughly 250 people. So it doesn't matter that the person you're talking to is not in the industry that you're working in. It doesn't matter that they're not someone that can hire you. But what matters is you don't know who the 250 people that they know are. You don't know who they are and who they might happen to talk to potentially end up hearing about work opportunities that they can let you know about, because that's often just as useful as a referral. But obviously the strongest way to get in on a gig is the word of mouth referral, because if the word of mouth referral is strong enough, you get in without having to audition. If that word of mouth and that relationship is strong enough, you get offered work that you can say yes or no to without having to audition, without having to prove your credentials, and without having to beg for gigs. I'm all for reaching out for people and kind of putting your cards on the table, but in terms of a strategy, this just makes way more sense to me. This makes so much more sense to double down on helping others get what they want, knowing that long term, it has to come back to you. We reap what we sow. So if you sow out helping, like I believe it to be a universal principle, okay, a God-given principle that anyone can apply, and it's going to work because it's baked into the laws of the world that we operate in. It can't not come back to you, which is why it's important that we sow out good and not try to take advantage of people, because that will also come back. And often it comes back heavier, it comes back multiplied than how we gave it out. I know that's been the case for me. Certain gigs and offers I've had through, and work and just opportunities, are far exceeded, I guess, any kind of help or support I might have given someone else, and it may not have even come through that individual person, but this strategy has really worked for me. When I stopped trying to get gigs and I started seeing how I can help other people, my network got stronger. When I stopped trying to get gigs and actually focused on trying to give more value, and this is another thing in Go Giver that he talks about, is giving more value than you take in payment. If you lived by that rule, you would get far more results anyway. And hopefully, I would like to think that I live by that rule, and hopefully the results will continue to show that. So we give more in value than we take in payment, and that value is what person we're serving decides is valuable, not necessarily what we decide is valuable. It's why certain restaurants can have a really basic product, like, let's say, pizza, for example. Don't stone me. Pizza can be made very complicated, but let's be real, it's simple ingredients, right? You're not buying £50, £100 pizzas. But if the service is off the chain, and the vibe of the restaurant and the service, and you come back and they remember your name, and it's your wife's birthday or something like that, and they provide an extra little cake or service on the side as a treat, you're probably coming back for at least another visit. And if you don't come back, you're definitely going to talk about it to other people, and you're definitely going to recommend it. So that there is just like a crude example of giving more value than you take in payment. How could we apply this in my situation? As a musician, one thing I can do that gives more value than I'm taking payment is being in the area early, you know? So I'm in the area of the gig long before the gig starts. Like that's kind of one of my big things, is making sure like that people don't have to worry about me being late, you know? And these are the simple things. These are the small things. It might be the bringing a couple spare bottles of water, or having a steamer in my bag so that if other people need to iron a shirt, there's a steamer there. You know, that's it's a small thing. I don't always do it these days, but I should get back on doing it, because these small things make big differences over time. And stop trying to get gigs and start focusing on what other people wanted and what is valuable to them, but then also building that curiosity, showing that curiosity and interest in them. The results come back bigger, because you're now much more likely to get recommended, or even just hear about other opportunities from their circles. So if you think you speak to 5 people and they've all got a sphere of influence of 250 people, and you're building that relationship with those 5 people, that's potentially 1,000 other people that now have a chance to know about you and what you do. And the book goes into further detail on how you actually transition from just being curious about them into them understanding what they do about you. But the whole goal is you're so interested in them that they get curious about you. And that's where I think the win really starts. As soon as you start talking to people and they're like, wow, you're a really great conversationalist. And then they're now asking questions about you. What is it that you do? Like, what's the deal there? Let them ask about you. Let them be curious, because they're going to listen that much more at this point in time than if you're going out and shoving it down their throat that you're a bass player looking for work, or a drummer or photographer or videographer or estate agent looking for clients. They're going to listen to what you say at that point. And even if they're not in the business for it, they might actually, because they like you now, recommend you to some of their friends, because they're like, yeah, this person's a cool guy or girl. This is someone I could see myself working with, or I would recommend to a friend. So that's the game there on networking with everyday contacts. When I stopped looking for gigs, I actually got far more back in return. Have you tried this? Let me know if you do try it. Let me know what you think. If you think this is a load of rubbish, I would love to know. Let me know in the comments.